Hello, today we are going to a very exciting place. That's Fan Bay Deep Shelter Underground. That's Mr. Don Fulbrook briefing before the trip.
That was the defences.
These tunnels were built by Royal Engineers to protect the British artillery battery from aerial bombings. They are 23 meters deep, located under the white cliffs of Dover and located very close to the port of Dover. There are 125 steps to the tunnel, and it is lined by corrugated steel sheets supported by steel arches. You are supposed to wear a helmet to protect your head and footwear when you are visiting this underground shelter. Oops.
You should really.
This is where the soldiers were resting at night.
I've got to count you when I was at the top. I'll make sure I take the same number of people back up. Hey, that's an easy number to do. Right, sort your lights out. Don to Iona, we're safely down, over.
He's updating your staff about safe arrival.
Right, so you come down 125 steps, you're around about 23 metres below ground level. And this was considered deep enough to be perfectly safe against any known bombs or shells that the Germans were likely to throw at us. Now on the wall there we've got quite a nice illustration drawn by an official war artist of this corner of these tunnels. I've got the originals in the museum. It gives you an idea of what it would have been like down here when it was in use. So you have two tier bunks down either side, gangway down the centre, and the artist has included lots of detail in there to give you an idea of how they lived down here. A little bit too much detail. And after a bit of investigation and examination, they actually erected it next to the lighthouse. So we were using a German radar set to detect German railway or the French railway lines.
These tubes were covering the power cables, and the ventilatory ducts were introduced later on.
Their tanks and everything else, they were using convoys until they invaded Norway. Norway had. Don't bother about the side of them.
How much work needed to be done once it was rediscovered? Nothing, it was in this condition.
Next we'll see the tunnel
We've got a plan here of the
the
tunnels.
wall.
We've come, that's the stairs we came down, and then we walked along there, we walked down there, and we're standing here now. That's the tunnel there, is the one. These tunnels here connected up, and another tunnel down there. These are the 2 points where the miners dug into the side of the hill, dug in there, and they took the chalk back out the same way and tipped it over the edge of the cliff. Now we moved out.
Later on, the metal was sold to Dover Industries by the War Department. However, the metal was too heavy to carry from the tunnels to overground, so they have abandoned the procedure.
And it looks as though after clearing everything off the surface, they came down here and they started dismantling this section of the tunnel. And then when you look around and see how many there are, it probably just wasn't a viable proposition. They never make any money out of it. They spend all their time carrying them up the stairs. So, well, the stairs were the last thing they built, so they wouldn't have come down that way. The most likely thing is they constructed some sort of slide down the side of the bank and just slid them down and carried them in from here. Almost certainly that's the way they got all their materials down here. Right, let's go through.
Next we are going to see an area which is supposed to be a storage area and a small hospital.
Right, this short section of tunnel here, shown on that plan over there as a storeroom, and the other half here is shown as a hospital, which is probably rather a grand name for what would have been a dressing station. So this part being a storeroom, they certainly wouldn't have wanted condensation in here, so it looks as though they made some attempt at insulating the walls. You can see the remains of what looks like cork granules. So probably what they did was mix cork granules with some sort of glue and sprayed it on the wall there, and that probably was quite effective. Even now, even though there's not much left of it, you don't get... So this was a hospital or dressing station. We do know this was used quite frequently. It was obviously only used for minor injuries. You wouldn't have carried anyone down all those steps with a serious injury and then treat him and then carry him back up again. They'd have gone straight to hospital. So minor injuries, cuts, but there wasn't any water laid on down here. There were some tanks. There's 3 tanks down there, I think. It stood in the corner there to provide them with drinking water or anything else they needed water for. I mentioned earlier that nearly everything was original.
Shallow and it's not covered by the corrugated sheet. Engravings of some of the soldiers, their numbers, their names.
I stopped here just a minute to show you, we mentioned earlier how they backfilled.
Chalk particles can be sometimes quite sharp, so you shouldn't touch them and protect your eyes from that. So be careful when you go in this area.
So if you can see how you're dismantling it, all that chalk's falling out.
Yeah, it's not pleasant, is it?
Right, now we're on bare chalk walls. You'll start to see loads and loads of names and dates carved in the chalk. Vast majority of it is from people that have broken into the tunnels over the years.
So these tunnels were built between November 1940 and February 1941 during World War II.
And they've been sealed, they were sealed off quite well. But the first year they sealed them off with steel doors, someone still got in. And even now, there was another one over there.
And this would have been lined, would it? Or is this...
No, no.
This
It's nicely recessed into the chalk.
And these tunnels were abandoned in 1950s and rediscovered in 2012 by the National Trust. The tunnels were opened to public in 2015.
Right, we'll stop here just for a few minutes. Go any farther, all of us have to bend down more times. It's near the only chalk you'll find anywhere in the world. There might be a few small outpots, but it's quite rare anywhere else. So we all live in southeast England. You get so used to it, you grow up with it, you just take it as the norm. But it's not normal anywhere else. It's landmass. it was sort of pushed up out of the water, and that's how we ended up with these large chalk rolling hills in southeast England and parts of northern Europe. Now flint, which you usually find in chalk, although it's normally seen as small stones really of chalk, in chalk rather. But here you can see there's a seam. That seam carries right the way through as far as the Rhine, so it's quite a large area. Now, how that formed is not clear. Scientists can't say with any certainty. One of the theories is that because of climate change, maybe the climate cooled down for a while. As I just said, algae doesn't grow in colder water, so the algae stopped growing, so the chalk stopped forming, but the flint carried on forming. The flint is formed in exactly the same way as chalk, except it's from a creature called the sponge. This is the other end of the tunnel that we were looking at earlier. If you remember, I pointed out on the plan that tunnel joins onto this one. So that was that's the one we closed it off for safety reasons, so you can't get through there. Now, up here, look, we've got quite a nice fossil. It's quite big shellfish. That apparently is quite rare. There's lots of these smaller ones, and that's quite a large one there. Quite unusual. Well, we're going to carry on down this way. As you come past this smooth area here, you'll see there's graffiti on here. This part here looks like someone's written in pencil. There's 3 or 4 names there, dated 7th of November 42. And down here there's 2 initials, JF, and there's 1940. So again, he's one of the miners. They're not miners because the miners are gone by then, so he would have been either sheltering or working down here at the time. I would carry on in this direction.
There are a lot of interesting markings underneath. Very interesting to see as we're going out of the tunnel.
Here we're standing in now, and he's sitting there. He's sitting on latrines. So that big cement face there, that is a World War I sound mirror.
Is that the sound mirror? The purpose of the sound mirror is to listen to the aircraft or ships and then locate them earlier before they reach you
Mounted on
and
a
to take
pedestal.
actions for that.
Operator there standing on a platform, got a handle there, you can move that across the face of the mirror there, and he's got an assistant there. Now the idea was he would move that across, backwards and forwards, across the face of the mirror there, listening for the sound of aircraft engines bouncing off of this curved surface. That would pick up the sound, that trumpet there, and amplify it. Rubber tubes there to a stethoscope arrangement in his ears. Once he picked up the sound of aircraft engines, he would move it around to get the loudest point, so move it around and up and down. Once he'd found the loudest point, his assistant would read off the elevation and the direction on those 2 gauges. he would telephone those through to a plotting room, and they would have a large table with a map of the area, and they would plot the position of the object.
Just to remind you, there's no mobile network here, so when you're here close to the deep shelter, it's very difficult to contact anyone. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you might connect to the French telecommunication system, and your phone tends to think that you're in France rather than in the United
They
Kingdom.
gave grants to local authorities to demolish and cover up names, initials, whatever. They're very dirty. You can guess what happened if you were filling that section out there in, covering those sound mirrors up, blocking the tunnels, loads and loads of dust and dirt going to come actually into the tunnels. And that's made the chalk in here extremely dirty. 1950s to block the tunnels. That obviously didn't work, as you can see, because that's how we found it. This wall's got quite a, this door's got quite a strong spring on it, so just be careful as you're coming through. Everything looks and crosses. On the wall there. On the wall here, you'll see there's lots of noughts and crosses over there. Right,
It's been queued for a while for the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah, you think it's got time to car, that's quite left, isn't it?
and this part of the tunnel has been reinforced. That's because there's a fault in the chalk formation here, and you've got two areas of chalk over millions of years have been rubbing together slightly, and the chalk's very powdery. You can just see the chalk over here, it's just powder. So this part of the tunnel has been reinforced. Obviously not original, because the timbers wouldn't have lasted. In fact, the timbers in this part have been set on fire at some point. So some nice individuals have come in here and thought it'd be a good idea to set fire to it. They're all old railway sleepers. Well, these are old railway sleepers, but the original ones were as well. And they're soaked in creosote, so they burn quite well. So I trust they lit the fire and then went out. This is the longest section of tunnel down here. It's about 100 foot long. Right, we'll stop there. I've got a chalk line here to tell me where to stop. Chalk's quite useful for things like that. Written it there, and he obviously thought, well, that's not very clear, you can't read that. So he's printed it there as well, which is quite nice of him. But the interesting thing is he's put his service number in, and that's enabled them to trace his. We've been past the other end there, obviously, because that's where that other tunnel is. That tunnel there was the officers' quarters. So you had fan bay guns, a range of up to 14 miles. That's a practice shell, there's no explosive. I keep looking at watch as well, we're running a bit over time.
No, was that for boats or for planes or what do you...
They would easily reach France. France is 21 miles
Yeah.
away, so they'd reach well into France. They weren't used to bombard France really, because coast. And the interpretation we've made of it, not me, is that he's talking about the Russian people after the Germans invaded. They were suffering extremely badly, and while Britain Blanco was a
Just people stationed here who were keen to get into the fight.
quite sure they were, yes, they were probably dying of boredom, wasn't it? Right, we've reached the end here. Just quick, the top of these tunnels were blocked up with rubble from the buildings they demolished up the top. That was in the rubble, much too big to handle, so they were going to have to break that up. I did mention it was.
Yeah, okay, over.
Okay,
Right,
that's
off
it.
you go, then I'll follow
It's
you
time
up.
to go
Take
back
it
again.
easy, because by the time you get to the top, you'll
Would be wheezing. Yeah.
On your right hand side, you can see the ventilator ducts. Following the stairs. – 125 steps again. Oh dear. You can see the light. We are coming out.
Sounds like a Spitfire.
These are so much better. These are better.
That's a Spitfire. Spitfire, yeah.
Oh, I don't mind.
This is it. Oh dear.